This is Brin. This is Tim. They've been writing pals for 10 years and write 5 mornings a week. But neither have had a single word published. These are the mistakes they've made on the way to finally getting published, hopefully one day. This is Losers Writing Books.
Hey guys, this week we're talking about how many books you need to sell to be a successful author.
Yeah, and to be specific, I think what we're talking about is for new independent authors who are releasing their first book and what they should expect to sell in that first year.
It's a big question. We all write because we want to put something on the page, but then it gets to the point where you want to publish it, you want people to read it, and all of a sudden you have to ask yourself the question, how many books do I want to sell?
Yeah, and what's a reasonable expectation when you know there are just so many books being released every day on Amazon and other platforms? The numbers, to be honest, are a bit sketchy, right? So looking at a few different studies, you can see for independent authors when they release a book, and this probably sounds a bit sad, the average number for a new independent author on Amazon, for example, might be anywhere from 100 book sales to 250 book sales, which isn't a lot, right? And even for a author who's signed with a big publisher, for example, the average can actually be around 3,000, and that might be for the whole life of the book. So we're not talking huge numbers for an average.
Good.
You're a bit shocked there.
I'm speechless. I wish I knew this before I decided to be an author. Wow. So they're quite low, those numbers, for an average. And I assume that takes into account the people who prop everyone else up. They sell maybe tens of thousands and the little guys sell 10.
There is such a huge variance between the type of genre you're working in, the quality of the work, what the author's goal is. So some people, it might simply be putting up their Word document on Amazon with a picture, where other people have got a really detailed marketing plan and been working for years. So I think it's really dangerous to read too much into those numbers. But I think it's also useful to go, hey, you shouldn't be expecting to be releasing your book and necessarily retiring on your new book sales. Yeah, don't quit your day job, right?
We sound like such old cynics. What happened to the naive dreamers?
Just one other thing to remember with the numbers too is that the market's changing so rapidly. So like with Kindle Unlimited, you can see lots of independent authors who aren't necessarily big or haven't put out a lot of work getting thousands of downloads and thousands of reads, which, you know, kind of skews the numbers. And you've also got audiobooks and other platforms emerging. So I just think the numbers aren't necessarily that important.
When we're talking about, this is how many books you sell, all of a sudden page reads are something that is important to take into account, or chapters downloaded, strange things that if you had this conversation 10 years ago, no one would have even considered.
Yeah, so like, is book sales important at all now? Is it's about downloads, reads, chapter reads, word reads? Like, it's crazy. So you're releasing your book in July this year, which isn't very far away. Let's say in the first year, what do you want to see happen?
The immediate answer, if I say dollars and cents, is an easy one to do the numbers on. So I've probably sunk, by the time this book releases, about $1,200 into writing programs, formatting programs, illustrations for the book, and some website design, that sort of thing. So running the numbers on Amazon, I need to sell about 550 copies of this book to break even on my current spend.
Right.
But because my goal is to release this first book, a second book in 3 months' time after that, a third book in 3 months' time after that, and then a compilation, it kind of skews the numbers. And the more books that I release, the less that each book has to individually sell to cover off on the initial cost.
Yeah, and that's interesting. So you've really thought about, what have I invested and how do I get that money back? And so would you say that is a kind of gauge for you of success?
I'm really keen to engage with illustrators, different illustrators for each book release. So really, I just want the previous book to be able to fund engaging an illustrator for the next book.
So it sounds like success for you too, it's not really just getting your money back, but also like it's that long-term view, right? Like you want to see yourself doing this, the next book and the next book.
Absolutely. And I think it's about that sustainable model. 30,000 word novella with a few awesome illustrations that is sort of released every 3 to 6 months. That's the goal. And I think you sort of read and hear that maybe like 1,000 people is the magic number. And to me, that just seems amazing. That's almost like that would do me if I had 1,000 people who were just like avid fans of the work that I did. So Tim, what's success for you?
So if I'm looking at that first year of what I expect, in terms of a goal for success, I'd like to reach 1,000 people. So at least get my words from that first novel in front of 1,000 people who have that opportunity to read it. To me, it's really about that. If I have 1,000 people who have that opportunity to read it, maybe 500 of those actually really enjoy it and are there for the next book. Because I guess kind of like you, for me, it's that long-term view of I want to keep doing this for the rest of my life, right? So I've in the first book of a long series where I've already drafted the second novel. So kind of getting that first novel with a key group of readers who are behind it is super important for me. And so I guess I haven't at all thought about how much I'm going to spend, which might actually be quite a bit because it's a big book. I don't really, to be honest, expect to get my money back in that first year. But I'm kind of seeing that first book as a long-standing investment where I'll continue to release more books and hopefully build to that magic 1,000 readers. Yes, would be nice.
1,000. It seems like the important number for both of us.
Yeah.
Are we being modest or ambitious by saying 1,000?
I don't know. I guess we might find out with comments. So please do leave your comments. I'd actually be really interested to see what you all think about what is success for new authors and what we should be expecting. And I guess that kind of leads into, why is it important to understand what success or what your expectations are? Like, why do you need to work that out?
I think it's really important to understand what you want to get out of publishing a book. I think for some people, they have a story to tell and they just want to tell that story. And once they've told the story, it's done. They're published, it's up, people can read it. But maybe that's it for them. And I think for other people, they want to write. So publishing a story is just one story, and the writing journey will involve a lot more stories that they can tell and publish along the way.
I have seen a lot of indie authors online who will talk about, I was really happy with my first book, but then I look in the charts and all these other people are getting more readers and purchases than me. And you just think how easily you could get put off, right? Like, this is something that takes a lot of work. And if your expectations are, I want to be competitive with other authors, or I want a certain position in the rankings, or I want a certain number of sales, it would be so easy, right? Just to go, I'm just going to do something else with my weekend or mornings and not bother writing because there's no point.
May goals.
May goals.
It's May goals. Let's quickly go through how we went in April. You only had 2 goals.
Yeah, I only had 2 goals for April. I wanted to make sure I did it. And I kind of feel like I cheated this month, right? So my goals were, 1, to find good fantasy editors.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 was find good cover design people.
Okay.
And for me, doing some research, I found, I think, what will be kind of a one-stop shop for me, which is Readsy. They basically are a marketplace where you can very quickly go in, say, hey, I want a medieval fantasy author, YA, and it will come up with, 100 editors, and then you can very quickly request a sample and a quote from 5 of them within that category, which is super useful. So for me, I think for cover design and editors, I'll be going to Readsy. And for me, who's a little bit lazy, I think it's really going to work well.
I had 3 goals. I had to revise my draft based on beta reader feedback, which I did. I had to do a bunch of business stuff. So I opened a bank account, I have a business number, and I've registered for a business name. Well, I also had to buy vellum. And I have bought it, but I've only opened it once because it's sort of the next step.
I think we'll give you a pass on that one.
I mean, it's on my credit card bill.
Done. So for my May goals, I've now got my feedback from my beta readers, and I'm basically working through to make all my final changes. The last time I'm going to edit this book, I hope.
Famous last words.
Yeah, so that's my big goal, is just working through all that feedback and getting it in its final form. We're getting closer and closer to your July publishing date. So what do you have to do in May to make sure that you don't disappoint all your fans?
I need to open Vellum for a second time and start actually putting the book in there and formatting it and getting it into the final form. So I also need to finalize my Amazon launch.
Right.
Now I've kind of grouped that into a big kind of bit of work, but there's a whole bunch of little stuff that goes into that. So like finalizing cover and format, keywords, understanding which Amazon categories I'm going to put my book into. It's really annoying administrative stuff, but it needs to be done because I need to get on Amazon.
So you actually have quite a lot to do this month.
Yeah, well, the clock's ticking to 1 July. Oh, I also need to do my website. My website's going to go up by the end of May.
Cool. Yeah, maybe we should do a little episode when we both got our websites up and they look like. Who's
Do a
better?
comparison.
Yeah, who's got the better website?
It's good. When's your website going up?
Oh, let's not talk about that yet. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. It really makes a big difference to us losers if you watch us.
Yeah, and share the video. Tell other people about our loserishness.
Yeah, that would be good.
So next episode, we're going to share with you our top editing tips and tell you from our own experiences where we went wrong and what we would suggest you don't do.